If you've heard about 10-day courses and would love to know how to apply, then this is the video for you. So a 10-day Vipassana course is a very intense, transformative course that teaches you the technique of Vipassana, where you're observing the nature of mind and body through sensations and using that as your object of meditation to explore your inner self. So this is a very important course, and it's a very wonderful gift that you are thinking of giving to yourself. And so in this video, I'll talk through some tips for signing up, some things to keep in mind, and by the end of it, you'll be able to sign up for your first 10-day course. To get started, go on over to dhamma.org, dhamma.org, and this will take you to this homepage. Now, I will tell you to feel free to explore this homepage, right? It's got a few videos here on the 10-day courses, and it's just really good to know a little more of what you're getting into. If you are a first-time student, I would avoid this courses because you would think, oh, that's where it's the easiest way to find a 10-day course. I would actually go to the locations, click on maps, and I do this because this is just a lot easier to see what center is actually near you. And if this is your first time on this site, you will get like a pop-up to share your location. If you want to make it easy, you can just click yes, and it'll just zoom you into your area. If not, you can just manually, say no, and then just drag, the map around and then try to go to your section. As you can see, there are many centers all over the world. And so I will just zoom in to the nearest center to me. Now you will notice before I go in, there are yellow dots or yellow pins and purple pins. And the main difference for this is that the yellow pins are non-center courses. So if we come and take a look by opening the courses page, generally you'll see there isn't even a course, there is one course listed. And so the yellow pins just means they're non-centers, meaning people will, rent out a hotel, will get a church, basically will rent a facility and will then host a 10-day course. The purple pins means that it is owned, right? This organization, for instance, here, Dhammakunja, this is a full-time center. There's courses, twice a month at least, or once a month at least, if it's a longer, 20-day course or something. And so generally check the purple ones first, right? So if I live in this area, I would check these three before checking the yellow pin. But if the yellow pin is the only thing, near you, then, obviously you can do that or try to travel to one that has a purple pin with more courses. So you open up, you find the center that you want to go to, and then you click on courses. And this, as we notice on the other yellow pin, it isn't as long as this, but the basic structure is the same in that you have the name of the center, a picture of the center, and a little description here. And every center will have their own, because obviously every center is different. And then some registration guidelines. And here at this center, Dhammakunja, there's teenager courses and children's courses. You as a new student want to go down to the 10-day courses. And now it's almost the end of 2024, so there's only like a few listed here. And then you go down to the 2025 one. And then this is, try to look for the course type that says 10 days. As you can see, there are other options here. And you generally will not be able to go to any of these. Because these are service days, so meaning people, volunteers and students go and will do deep stuff, take out weeds, do some cement stuff, just do some deeper maintenance. So you find a 10-day course. Here in the status section, super important, this will tell you whether, there's a wait list. So if you, for instance, wanted to go to the January 8th to 19th, both men and women have a wait list, and you will be put on the wait list. And sometimes it'll be, you're the 8th person, and sometimes it'll be like you're the 50th person. Now, for example, this February 12th to February 23rd, we can see that the men's is open. And the woman has a wait list. So if you see the open, obviously apply for that one. And now I'll walk through the application process a little bit. And this is super important as well to just keep in mind some things before you actually submit or start filling this out. And the things to keep in mind, right? This application process is really nice. For you, you're a first-time student, so you would click no, you are not. You have not completed a 10-day course. You know, you pick your gender, you pick your region, whatever country you are in, and then you go to the next page, accept the agreement. Now it's really important, what's on this page is super important to keep in mind, because this page is telling you what the code of conduct is, what the expectations are, a little bit about the technique. And it's very important for you to keep these things in mind as you go to apply for this 10-day course. And I'll just give a little rundown. So the beginning is the intro to Vipassana, just very quick Vipassana introduction, you know, telling you what Vipassana is not, right? It's not a rite or a ritual. It's not an intellectual or philosophical entertainment, right? It is a technique that will eradicate your suffering. And as somebody that meditates 2 hours a day for many years now, I can guarantee that it does start to eradicate suffering. Does this mean that I have no suffering inside me? No. But how much I suffered last week, I'm suffering a little less now, right? How much I suffered last year, I'm suffering moderately less, right? Still suffering, but you definitely see that path of like, it is decreasing my suffering on a daily basis. So some important things to keep in mind is you are going to stay here for the entire 10 days. And this is very important to keep in mind, right? This is a 10-day course. You're going with this intention. You're going to be meditating 12, 14 hours a day for 10 days straight. And you gotta have this strong determination. Prepare yourself for what this is. And if you determine after reading this code of discipline and some of the things that I'm gonna mention, if you're like, you know what, I don't wanna do that, then don't go, right? Because you can see how full the list is. You see how much you have to plan in advance. You're taking up someone's space if you don't really want to stay for 10 days. And if you don't really want to follow these rules. So we're going to follow these rules. And if you can commit to saying, okay, I can do this for 10 days, then apply. So yeah, just a quick note here. If you have any mental conditions that are super serious, please disclose that, right? Disclose any mental episodes or conditions that you have or have had, right? Even if it was 10, 20 years ago, right? You know, I've heard stories where someone for 20 years did not have any symptoms, and then going to a 10-day course really just brought up that condition to an extreme amount. And so you want to be very hyper vigilant. If you have just, again, 20, 30, 40 years ago, 5 years ago, if you think you're over it and it's not affecting you anymore, please just mention it, because this 10 days is intense, right? I'm not going to lie. This is an intense 10 days where you're purely focusing on yourself, you and your mind, right? That's what it is for 12, 14 hours a day. You're not talking to people. You're not reading. You're not writing. You're not having any other outlet. This is what you're going to be doing. And in this condition, if you have any underlying conditions that maybe haven't surfaced for a while, it creates an environment for that. And to some extent, that is in some way a goal to really heal the wounds, right? To have the wounds come up, to be able to face them with equanimity, to be able to heal from these wounds. But if your wounds are such that they're classified as like a mental condition or a mental disease or something like this, then you don't want to be doing that in this environment, right? You want to go get medical professional help. And so this meditation, you just have to be very intentional with that. So while you are at the course, you have 5 precepts, and they are to abstain from killing, to abstain from stealing, sexual activity, telling lies, and taking intoxicants. And those are very important. These 3 are for old students. And by the way, old students just means somebody who has taken a 10-day course and not necessarily about their age, right? You could be 19 and you took a course, and last year when you were 18, now you're considered an old student. And you could be 80 years old and this is your first course and you would be considered a new student. So old, new and old is just if you've taken a course or not. And there's like some other stuff here. Again, that noble silence. There's a noble silence for 10 days. Actually, it's 9 days. 9 days of noble silence where you're not speaking. Of course, if you have any issues, you can talk with the teacher. If your light bulb goes out in your room or your bathroom is clogged, you can talk with the course manager to facilitate those kinds of things, those important conversations. Otherwise, you are quiet. And another thing, men and women are separated. However, if you are non-binary, you can pick, the side that you are on, or you identify at this, whatever it might be. You do have the choice, at least at Dhammakunja and some other centers in America. I won't say this is true for all courses across the world, but at least here in America, we are more and more so, allowing people's gender expressions to go to whatever side that they want. However, there is a separation of sides just for more, ease, less distractions, less impulses, and all this kind of stuff. And so dining, living, everything is separated. And then on the 10th day, there is some, you can like talk to each other. You can talk to women, you can talk to men in the dining halls, and that kind of stuff. So there is some mingling on the 10th day, and that is it. And then again, physical contact is prohibited, and then just some other stuff that you can go through here. And then another important thing, course finances. This whole thing, the reason it's free is because this is all run by donations, and only old students can donate, right? Only people who've taken a course, who see the benefit, who are implementing it in their life, donate, right? And then they sustain future students. And so after the course ends, of course, you also will have the ability to donate if you would like. And if not, you can literally not donate. I remember when I first went to my course, I was, literally a freshman or a sophomore in college. I don't remember. I did not have much money to donate. So I did not donate my first course. Nobody asked any questions. Nobody came up to me and says, hey, have you donated yet, right? Literally, there's a table on day 9 or day 10, excuse me. There's a table and you literally can walk up to it or not. Nobody's like gonna come after you. So super important. Another important thing, the timetable. This is very important. And I'll just talk about some tips and tricks here just to be able to help you understand sort of what you can do, right? There are 3 important hours that you absolutely have to be somewhere, right? And that's, pretty flexible. And those are the 8 to 9 group meditation in the hall, the 2:30 to 3:30 group meditation in the hall, and then the 6 to 7 group meditation in the hall. For these 3 hours, you have to be meditating in the meditation hall with everybody. Everybody's going to be there. And of course, you want to show up 5 to 10 minutes early, and then you're going to be meditating in there. These other times are a bit more flexible. I will also say this time is also not flexible. So you're going to go to the group meditation 6 to 7 and then have a 10-15 minute break. And then you go back to listen to a discourse that kind of explains, what you've been practicing up until then, goes into detail. And it's really just like, an hour to an hour and a half talk every evening. And then the rest of the time is a bit more flexible. And so the morning wake-up bell rings at 4 a.m. Now, I will be honest, right? I have a hard time waking up at 4 a.m. And so if you see this 4 a.m. and you're like, well, I can't go because it's 4 a.m. and I can't wake up that early, like it is totally okay. Like if you wake up, 5:30, 6:30, and you slowly work your way back, or you just, wake up at 5:30 every single morning, or 6 a.m. even. And again, I'm not encouraging you to not follow this rule, to not follow the timetable, but this particularly in the morning, you can Definitely try your best to follow it. But if you're like, I can't wake up at 4, don't let that be the reason you don't go. However, the rest of the time, there's also a little bit of flexibility. So, 6:30 to 8, you're having breakfast. Technically, it's 6:30 to 7:15 because the kitchen closes. And then 7:15 to 8, you just do whatever you want. And then there is, 9 to 11, lunch break, or meditate in the hall or your room. And this just literally means you have the option to meditate in the hall or your room. And so like for me, when I wake up until about 6:30, I'll just be meditating in my room. I don't really go to the hall in the morning. And these other times as well, right? Break time, 11 to 1. This, you can walk around, obviously have your lunch. You can, in the summertime, at many centers that I've been to, people will be laying down in the grass and just kind of like sunbathing or taking a little mini nap during this time. And then, other times, meditate in the hall or your room. So those are some things to keep in mind. And when it says meditate in the hall or in your room, you can't like be walking around and stuff outside, like on a walk. Obviously, if you're just going from, let's say, the hall to your room, it's all fine. But you can't be doing like exercise walking, like, oh, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes. The time to do that is here, right? Between 11 to 1. And you can also do that here. Let's say you have breakfast from 6:30 to 6:45 or 6:45 to 7 or whatever. Then you have 7 to 8, which is a break time. So you could do like a bunch of walking at that time. And then there's like the 5 to 6 p.m. tea break. So here too, you could do like a bunch of walking. So if you want to do like a whole bunch of walking, just do it during like the break periods. And then the meditate in the hall or your room, you obviously want to be meditating. Keep walks to a minimum just from place to place if you're moving from the hall to the room. And then the 2:30 to 3:30 group meditations in the hall, you definitely always want to be there. And then you go on to the next page. And this is where, some of your information is collected. So once you fill out those, you are taken to this page and you can answer these questions. Now, there are some very important questions here I will highlight. These two, the health details, very important. I was mentioning this mental health stuff. And so if you have, if you had any anxiety, right, significant depression or anxiety. So if you just have, dated, like it's not clinically, you haven't been clinically diagnosed with anxiety, right? Everybody has some anxiety. So if it's like that level, you don't have to like type yes, but if you have been, diagnosed or anything like that with these things, or panic attacks or manic depression, schizophrenia. And again, I just want to remind you, even if you haven't had a panic attack in, let's say, 10 years, you want to click yes here because it does say, have you ever had? And so you want to like always just put whatever this can be. And what will happen is, you type in yes, you'll put this, a little bit of the details here. And then after you submit the application, you will get a much longer follow-up with a bunch more questions, like really going a bit more in depth into your condition. And then the assistant teachers are getting trained or trying to keep up with training on how to really identify whether the course is right for you or not. And so that's what that huge questionnaire, 2-3 page, I don't remember exactly how long it is, with those specific questions. And you can always talk to your, psychologist, your psychotherapist, whatever it might be. And you can also ask them, hey, is this something, is a 10-day, silent 10-day Vipassana course something that's going to be good for me? Is my mental health condition going to get in the way or not, right? So keep in touch with your mental health professionals if you're working with them. Fill this out. And then, if either of them say no, whether your therapist or psychotherapist says, no, I don't recommend this, or the assistant teacher, says, okay, I also don't recommend this, then I would highly encourage you to like just follow what they say, because you do not want to be in a situation where this becomes hell for you, right? Where this is something that triggers some deep-seated things and really exasperates those underlying conditions. Because I will say, being by yourself for 10 whole days and focusing on yourself for 14 hours a day it can be very intense if you have any serious, like even if you don't have any serious conditions, right? Like this is an intense experience, but just for your safety in mind and your health and your well-being, if your doctor or the assistant teacher does not recommend you taking this course, please follow them. So really important to fill this out here. And then, just a few more questions. And then here, super important, anything you wish to add, make sure if you are gluten-free, if you have any dietary restrictions, put that here. The meal served will be fully vegetarian. If you're vegan or something, there is milk and stuff, so you can just not have that. But if you have any other intolerances, please let them know. They do tag everything, every item that comes out. They'll, put a name if it isn't obvious, like if it's just a bowl of lettuce, they won't say the name, but let's say there's a mac and cheese. And sometimes they make non-dairy mac and cheese, and sometimes they make dairy. So if they do have any, combined cooked dish, they'll list all the allergens and all that kind of stuff. And that can be very helpful. You will get an email after the registration team reviews it that either says, hey, you're in, or you are going to be on the wait list. You will get an email that allows you to accept your course. And when that email comes, it'll be like, all right, you have between this time and this time to accept the course. So make sure you keep an eye out for this email, and then you accept the course. Then you get more emails, and then you'll be able to attend. Now, if you are on the wait list, they'll say, hey, we've reviewed your application, we've accepted you, but you're on the wait list. You are number 10 on the wait list. And then they'll, update you once in a while and say, hey, you're number 4 on the wait list now. And sometimes the hard thing about being on the wait list is there are some very last minute cancellations, almost a few on every course. And you have a more flexible schedule, and you can do like a last minute acceptance where you accept a few days in advance. I've known people that literally accepted the day of, the day the course started. Keep that in mind as well. Otherwise, you would say, I need at least 3 weeks or 2 weeks in advance. And you will be able to update that preference. And so if it's, you say, hey, I need at least 2 weeks, and let's say they get an opening 3 days out, they're not going to email you, because you put that preference. So that's also super important to keep in mind. And I know how important this 10-day course is going to be for you. I hope this video has helped. If you have completed your first 10-day, check out this playlist for the new student series.